Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're back to work on the metal planer, and I am keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to get to kind of see this thing move under power for its first time. I hope I didn't just jinx myself, because last time I thought that, we messed a bunch of things up, broke some pieces, etc., etc. Got all that worked out, and I'm a lot more confident of where we are right now. If you remember from previous episodes, we had issues with the whole drive belt system. When I broke this casting, this lever right here that moves the belt shifters back and forth, we actually had the machine running in reverse, and it just wasn't working like it should, and we had a piece that was already cracked, and one thing led to another, and we had a failure there that we had to go back and do some repairs to. Had to move the counter shaft, get our pulleys arranged correctly. I had them on there incorrectly to begin with. We got all that worked out now, and I'm hoping, like I said, that we're going to have this thing worked out. Before I move the table back over to the spur gear where it will actually start moving, I want to kind of show you a few things in here, because you can really see what's going on right now on how this whole mechanism that was giving us problems, how it's all working and how it's supposed to work. So let's get over here and take a look at it. First, I want to show you this. We got it all repaired. That was in a previous episode. It's all back installed. I want you to just kind of take a look at how it looks. So here's our shifting lever that we had to repair. Remember, it had broken right down here. We braced it back together, plus shrunk a couple of steel rings on here to kind of help hold it all together. I'm confident that's going to be sufficient and hold it in place, but I wanted to kind of show you that. And it is back on here, and it's hard to move this with the belts on there. When we fire up the line shaft, you can kind of see things moving a little bit easier. Right now, it's just hard to move it because the belts aren't moving. But basically what happens is when the table moves in, there's a dog that hits this piece here that moves the lever forward. When that happens, it controls a mechanism up inside of this that moves the belt shifters over, and it switches the belts from one pulley to the other pulley on the other side, which is basically a forward and reverse mechanism. So whenever it pushes the lever back, there's another dog, and when it comes up, it hits it and pushes it back forward. So this lever is just literally going back and forth, depending on your stroke length, and that's changing up all your pulleys and making everything else go. So let's take a look on the inside so you can kind of see how things, all this linkage works. So the shifting lever is over here, and it's all connected to this mechanism in here, and you can kind of see it moving back and forth. So we got a linkage that goes to a little arm here that when you move this back and forth, it moves that arm back and forth. That arm is attached to a shaft that goes to the belt shifters. And we're not doing a full stroke here. Again, it's not letting me move it right now because the belts aren't moving, but you can kind of see how all that mechanism works. And of course, when you change the direction, it changes the direction of this big gear right here, which connects to the table, and that's what moves the table back and forth. Kind of a nice little ingenious mechanism they got going there. Take a look up top. We have all of our belts now on the counter shaft. So basically got a motor driving it here in the center. That turns the whole counter shaft, and then we have the two drive pulleys on either side. One, of course, is for forward, one is reverse. And then also I've now got belted up in here the oiler. So that oiler is just constantly turning, and that's pumping oil down into the ways. And I'll kind of show you that here in just a second as well, where you can kind of see what's going on. First off, let me power it up so you can kind of see it work. There we go. I got the planer kind of in neutral right now. It's not moving left or right or in or out of the table, is it? Kind of quiet right here compared to when all those gears start meshing. But you can see the oiler up top. And the way that's designed is every so many rotations of that pulley, that big pulley on it, I don't know exactly how many it is, but it pumps squirts a little pump in there. So it's probably every minute or so you get a little squirt of oil, and it goes down that little copper tube, and I've got it plumbed in down to my ways where it will inject oil in there. So going back pretty far in the archive here of this whole planer restoration, but if you remember, we put these oil grooves in here, and we plumbed the oil pipes into it So right here in the center of the ways, I got a place where oil comes into the ways where it kind of lubricates the middles. We'll also have some wipers on the end that will lubricate as well. And I'm just going to let this thing run for a minute. It's probably going to take a minute or so before we see it, but here in a minute you're going to see a little squirt of oil pump out of all 4 of these holes here. You'll probably only be able to see 2 of them on camera. I'm just going to let the camera run and we'll catch it here whenever it happens. All right, there it goes. You can start seeing that oil come out. Just a little drip on either side. And what will happen when the table is in here, it's going to keep it in those grooves, and that will kind of distribute the oil all the way up and down the ways on either side. Of course, the excess just drips down into the bottom. But again, that's going to go a long way. It gives it a shot of oil maybe every 1.5, 2 minutes or so. It's about how it's kind of averaging out here, which should be more than adequate lubrication for this as we get going. All right, I've got you kind of looking down here where you can see several things going on at one time. I want to show you this whole belt shifting system in one place where you can see it. So here's our lever. I've got it in the straight up position, which is kind of a neutral. When it goes forward or back is going to depend on which direction we're going. So when I pull this lever this way, what's going to happen is the table's going to move into the cutter. It's actually not engaged right now, but you'll see the bull gear turning in that direction. And then I'm going to simulate hitting the dog. We'll shift the belt back the other direction. It's going to shift the belts on the tight loose pulleys. Right now, they're running on loose pulleys on both sides. That pulley's just shifted on the shaft, or spinning on the shaft. This pulley over here is a fixed pulley, same as on the other side, and that will actually rotate that shaft, which engages this whole gear train, moves it forward and reverse. So, all right, I'm going to pull it forward. We'll see the gear move in one direction, then while shift it the other direction, it's going to move. Now, when it's pushing the table back in retraction mode, it's going to move at a much faster speed because that's the cut that's not, or that's what part that's not cutting. It's only going to be cutting when the gear is turning towards the cutter. All right, here we go. So I'll flip this over. You can see it engages that bull gear. That's going to pull the table in. Whenever it hits that dog, it's going to shift this over, come back out. So as it goes back and forth, there we go, get it back in neutral. So I want to show you guys this real quick. These are the 2 trip dogs that are going to move that dog back and forth. Now, this one here is when the table's moving in, and you got a solid stop that hits a little bar on that lever that just moves it back. On this side, though, it hits a different part. There's a little spring-loaded tab in the top of that lever, and what's nice is that when the table's out beyond its stroke, like it is right now, it will actually come in, and you've got a little taper here, and it will just hit that. It'll spring in there, and then as soon as it goes back, boom, that pin drops back in. So when it comes back the next time, it'll catch on the pin. But we can just go right past it here. I don't have to worry about moving anything out of the way to get onto that dog, and you'll see it when we pull the table back. And here's the shifting lever, and of course that's the part that hits the positive stop. This is the one for the reverse stroke, and again, that is spring loaded. It pulls in and out. So when it comes up, it hits that lever on coming in reverse, it'll slide in and then it'll just pop back in, and when it comes back the other direction, it's going to catch positive. Zoom 20. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous right now. I will note that the way that I've got this is when this lever is pretty much straight up and down, we're on the loose pulley on both sides, so it's kind of free spinning. So we're in the middle of that stroke. You're not going to have a pulley engaged on either side. So it should pretty quickly move off of one to the other. and you have a little bit of it'll be a split second where there's nothing going on this, and then the belt will go over to the other one and it'll start moving back in the other direction. All right, there's only one way to find out this thing's going to work. Let's try it out. So we'll pull this forward. That's our cut stroke. You see the tab's going to push out of the way. Boom. It's going to go forward. And I got a little adjustment I got to make there. All right, so I see the one problem where this dog is not quite coming down far enough to catch it like it needs to. I'm gonna have to figure out what we need to do to adjust that. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's working. It's working. Got a few kinks and bugs to work out of it, but that's the first time that this planer has moved under its own power. And I don't know how many years. When I got this thing, it was clapped out, been sitting out in the rain up underneath a tin, but it was outdoors for years and years and years. Worn slap out. There's no telling when the last time this machine cycled like that on its own. I bet at least 40, 50 years. Just a guess, but that's my guess. Anyway, super excited. I got some fine tuning to do. I'm gonna probably do that off camera. And there are actually a few things on this machine that I need to wrap up before we actually make the first cut. But I was at least able to cycle this, and like I said, I want to play around with some things and get this mechanism fine-tuned before we try to do that as well. But it works. It works. A lot of hours, a lot of days, a lot of weeks and time has gone into this project, and I can't tell you how excited I am to see it work. I'm not going to play with it anymore until I get this fixed, and I got to figure that out, but we'll be back. Guys, I'm excited. It probably doesn't show very well, but I am just absolutely stoked to see this thing move. And I wish I could play with it more, but I want to fix this thing up a little bit better before we go forward. But boom. We are really into short rows now, finally. So anyway, guys, that's going to be a wrap on this episode. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for following along in this whole series. This project is now almost 2 years in with my limited time to come out here and work on things on weekends and evenings and so forth. And it is really awesome to kind of see this thing finally coming to fruition. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave comments, all those good things. And guys, we'll catch you on the next video. Again, thanks for watching.